All right, everybody, welcome to Behind the Bar, where we get to know your favorite dry bar comedians. I'm your host, Danny Johnson, and as always, Behind the Bar is sponsored by RX Solutions. If you are underinsured or uninsured, and you want to save up to 75% off your next prescription, go to rxsolutions.online. My guest today, the wonderful Marty Simpson, who I had the pleasure of meeting. See, I get all choked up already talking about you. In Indianapolis, we did Trial by Laughter together. It was a contest slash TV show. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was like Wayne's World TV show. It was like a Wayne's World locally broadcast TV show. I use it as a TV credit, don't you?
Of course I do. I leave off the Comcast part. It's just NBC.
Oh, that's funny. I don't even know what I put on there, but it's like I think critically acclaimed is what I call it.
Right.
The critically acclaimed television series.
Yeah.
Trial by Laughter.
And but your dry bar special is I Am Coach. I watched it again recently. I love it. It's probably the second or third time I've watched it. And
oh man, thanks.
Yeah. I appreciate you taking the time out. So how you been, man?
Yeah, no, that time we met, it was awesome. I watched you do your set. You went the first night, right? And like killed. Yeah. I was up in the John Wilkes Booth seats or the Abraham Lincoln seats up there in that like weird Mexican restaurant. It was awesome. It was Morty's, which is awesome. Like it's the first festival that I had gone to where we had a good audience.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? We had like 150 people packed into a comedy club and you murdered that night. It was great. Husky. Is that right? Husky.
You've had those shows. Like, I think I felt like I knew I had a decent set, but I walked off there like I didn't have the best set I could have had. You know, I wasn't surprised that I didn't advance, you know?
Well, I think that you went early in the night, right? Yeah. Like I felt like my memory of you, and I hate this for competition, and I'm this person a lot of times too, is you break the seal kind of. You're like the comic that makes the first five that were very average. Now you're the comic that lets the last three that go win and advance, like, you know what I mean? So you're like the team player sort of, but no, I thought you were great. That's why we went to dinner and hung out and stuff. And
you locked your
I remember I locked my keys in the car. Yeah. Like, yeah, Jinx, that's awesome. That was like, that's when you know you're friends with somebody right away, when they're like not annoyed and we just hang out and talk shop for a while. It was like unbelievable though. AAA was like in the mall parking lot and came like 7 minutes later.
Yeah.
Shout out AAA, new sponsor.
Right. Behind the Bar is brought to you also by AAA.
Yeah.
I should have just taken. That would have been great if I just took an Uber. Like you locked your keys in your car and you're my ride. I'm like, all right, I get it. I gotta get it.
Yeah, that's like, you ever have your feature where it's like these are just hovering around you and you're just like, and if they you know you're not getting along with your headliner if they take an Uber when you lock your keys in the car. That's funny.
Right. But you had a great set and you advanced onto the contest, and then eventually the winner was I don't remember his name, but I think he had cerebral palsy. He was the guy in the wheelchair.
Yeah. I don't want to. I mean, he was fantastic, and I know for a fact that he destroyed the room because I followed him, but I wasn't listening. I was purposefully in my head.
Yeah.
Like, for what it's worth, listeners out there, I had done 19 competitions up to that point and never advanced past whatever the first round was. If it was like 3 people going or 20 people going or 100 people going, I was always on the stage and saying to myself, I think I did good. I think I did well. I think the judges could see what they saw. I mean, I felt great about it. And then that night, the first night I got off stage, they had made that little preface where 2 people could tie and go from one show. It was like one person from each show.
Yeah.
But we have some wild cards. And I think that was their way of saying, we haven't seen everybody's sets. And if there's a dud show and there's like a great show, we don't want to like have everybody lose from one show just because of that. And I remember the guy before me did great. And then I felt pretty good that night, and I made the wild card. But then the next night I was on stage, I was up backstage like, I crushed. If I don't advance, I'm going to be bitter about this. And then I won. So I felt like good that it was the first time I ever got off stage feeling like that was the time. That was the time, you know? So to the young comics out there, if you're up on stage feeling like, I feel like I could advance, you're not going to advance.
Right.
You need to feel like the roof came off during your set.
Yeah.
And also, did you meet Grant Cotter during that weekend? Grant Cotter
probably
and I became really
did, but I don't
friends.
remember.
He was the guy that he also made the finals, and he had a joke about he accidentally smoked crack, secondary smoke, when he leaned his head in the window of a car going by, and the guy like blew his crack pipe in his face and asking for directions. But yeah, Grant and I became great friends then too. So that was fun. And But yes, I've been seeing you've been going all around. I think your dry bar, I think you got your dry bar before I did. Mine was released right when COVID shut everything down. And so everyone was panicking, and it literally got like 10 views for like 2 months, but at least I
did
was
you
right.
have a masked audience?
Oh, no. I was like, we filmed it before COVID.
Okay.
And then it released to the world like, hey, here's Marty Simpson special. And I thought that I was going to be like right by The Chosen on VidAngel, and I was for like 4 weeks. It was like The Chosen and Marty Simpson, I Am Coach, right next to each other. And it just didn't seem like it took off. But then the second time they released the clips, it got pretty good traction and stuff.
Mine was next to Passion of Christ on VidAngel.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Now it's all over. Now they have them on Peacock, Prime, Amazon Prime, Apple. You can go anywhere and just plug in your name.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I was a huge fan of Dry Bar before I was even selected for it. And then, of course, now that we've been on it, is that what every young comic asks you?
Yeah.
They're like, hey, Danny, how's it going? Oh, you like the Yankees? Cool. How can I get a Dry Bar?
Yeah.
But for 2 or 3 years, I just assumed they would contact us, sort of like they would just find the clean comics and stuff. And then, so that's my story. I tell young comics, like, how'd you get Dry Bar? I'm like, my agent called me and told me the date that it was going to be. Like, that's, I didn't really email them or anything like that, but I love it. I think the whole place out there is fantastic. The production value is amazing. The people on the ground are like the nicest human beings on earth.
Yeah.
And Provo is just a great town. I think they got something special going there because they're packing out 300 people in a place that seats 294 people or whatever. And I feel like if you bomb at your Dry Bar too, it's like God's way of saying you might want to consider whether comedy is for you or not.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? Because that's so funny. They love comedy, and they want to laugh at this, at almost any, they're ready. And if you can't, it's funny. I tell this story, and the guy that I performed with, so I did mine, I think January 19, I think. No, it was like, when did the pandemic start? It was March of what year?
March of 2020. So I was,
okay. So January,
October.
I think it was January of 2020.
I feel like you were 2019. I thought yours came out before mine, but I could be wrong.
Nah, I think you might be right. But I mean, the experience was wonderful, but I got it with, I messaged them a few times, right? I don't have a big time agent. I'm not Marty Simpson, right?
Yeah.
So I can
tell you how I got my agent later if you want to ask. That was a funny story.
So I messaged them a couple times, and then I just happened to pick up a week at the Comedy Zone in Jacksonville, and the headliners Dry Bar had popped that week. And just in working with her, I was just like, hey, what's the process? I didn't want to be like, how did you get it? Because she's great.
Right.
I don't want it to come across wrong. So she's like, oh, I'll just connect you with one of the bookers. She goes, you'd be perfect for it. So a day later, I get a call from one of the bookers saying, are you available in 10 days to film it?
Right. So somebody probably backed out or something, and they're scrambling. That's like an awesome way to get it. Like, so you like really got it. He went to your clips and liked you and then called you.
Yeah. I mean, and 10 days later, I mean, talk about nerve wracking. Like, first of all, how do I lose, 50 pounds in 10 days? And then,
well, you can't lose the weight. Then the 8 of your minutes are gone.
Right. You're right.
I have this shirt about, like, I've got a Captain America shirt that's like totally not licensed by Marvel, but the shield is dropped down to the dad bod beer belly,
So great.
And it says like Shield of Fat instead of Shield of Faith. Like it's got a misprint on it, and like Armor of God, Shield of Faith. I sell it to churches and stuff. And I never sell. I'm always like, because I fluctuate, and I'm always like, oh, honey, when I'm telling my wife I'm leaving, I'm like, I should probably bring or she says, you should probably bring the Captain America shirts. I'm like, oh no, really? I got to start walking the neighborhood again. Like, it's like when I have the good shape of the belly is when it sells pretty well. But
for your special, did you have a hard time kind of, the special is 30 minutes long, and you obviously have much more material than that. Did you have a hard time kind of putting together your set?
Well, my special is called I Am Coach, and you hung out with me for 15 minutes. So that I'm a little bit analytical, and like I break down. We were like hanging out at the mall in 5-minute increments with the horn going off in the background a little bit. Like I feel the need to be efficient. And so I'll share with you the real answer to that. And then all the comics out there can accuse me of stealing the joy out of their lives if they want. But I actually knew that they were doing hour-long specials or 45-minute specials, but then right as I got booked to go out there, they kind of changed to the 25-minute format. And I think what they were finding out was that a lot of the comics that now they were on year 3 or 4, they didn't have 45 minutes of clean material. And so they had, you know, some people took a strategy that like, I'll do 17 other minutes in the second special or do a whole different set. But I just took the attitude that was like, I was going to do exactly what they told me to do. So the editors and the production people had told Tim Grable, my agent, like, we really want you to do 2 25-minute sets that are the same. And after the first one, we'll say, hey, you know, it's in the can. That was awesome. You can add a few jokes if you want, but that just helps the editors, you know, have less work to do.
Yeah.
So I felt like I'd heard horror stories where people had filmed one 2 years earlier and it still wasn't released.
Yeah.
And I think just the logistics of editing sometimes is that they're like trying to fit 2 jokes together that maybe were PG-13, PG-18 or whatever.
Yeah.
They're really trying to do it. So I dove in, Danny, like I was a little bit of a psycho about it. And so I knew 6 months ahead of time. I knew in June that I was filming in October. And so I literally started every set. Well, first of all, I called the Comedy Zone in Jacksonville. It's funny that you say that because that was one of the first places they sent me. And I said, I want to feature everywhere. And I've been headlining the Zone for a couple of years at this point.
Right.
And so I said, I want to feature. I want 25 minutes. And they still booked me to headline anyway. And some of the rooms I'd already been headlining. But every church show, every corporate show, and every comedy club show that I did between June 10th and October 10th, or September 10th, I think is when I filmed, I started with my dry bar set, 25 minutes. So like I got the huge 30-second applause break ending at the 25-minute mark, and then was like, well, all right, now I'm going to tell you some other jokes.
Right.
So it really messed up some shows. Shout out to any people who booked me back then who thought my show was a little disconjointed. But I knew that in my regular show, the callbacks fell 30 minutes apart or 20 minutes apart. And I knew my signature piece that gets me booked for my dry bar is the bat story, you know, and I knew that I wanted all 4 callbacks at the end of that story to be in the clip that they released. But in a regular show, those are like at minute 10, 20, 30, and then all 4 of them get called back at the end right in a row. And so I didn't do my material that way. And I'm very rambly, as you can tell from the last 5 minutes of this podcast. So I didn't want to get out there having not rehearsed and then get in my head and have to jump around and do weird stuff. Yeah. So I quite literally, I put the microphone in my left hand at every show from June 10th to September 10th. I did not ever took mic in my right hand because when they're editing, I didn't want them to see a jump of the microphone if they had to like cut half a minute of my stuff or whatever. Wow. Or if someone coughed, or if you flubbed a line, like I even knew if I flubbed a line, I was going to just say it again and make it funny. Right. Which, and I wanted the bat story. I wanted it to be 7 minutes. I thought that the 7-minute clip would be good for Facebook, and it ended up being like 8.5 minutes, but that was the audience's fault. That wasn't my fault. Right. It just went a lot better than that was great. Yeah. So I felt good about it, and I begged them in an email. I said, please, I did this for 6 months, release this clip of this 7-minute chunk. Cause the bat story is 4.5 minutes of it. It probably would stand alone, but then the callbacks at the end you would be left watching it on Facebook like, oh, well, that's cool. I don't know why the audience is laughing so hard at that. That must, comedians would know it was a callback sort of, but soccer moms who book comedy shows at churches and corporate events wouldn't know. So, and they came through for me on that. So I was very excited about that. But, I don't know. I felt like I was prepared. So when I got out there, I was ready.
It was very smooth. Yeah, obviously very smooth. You know, the whole, you could tell that you were ready, that everything was smooth. And
well, I appreciate it. The only thing I was like, that I'm in my head about is like the opening Coach Simpson-y stuff at my regular shows is like 10 minutes in instead of right out of the gate. And it hits a lot harder than it did as the opening piece. Like the very opening piece,
right?
Kind of like we were talking about your festival.
What is it? Winter tie.
Yeah, winter tie. Yeah, and then so it was kind of like the clean audience was like, whoa, this coach is kind of mean to his players, as opposed to like, oh, this guy's already made us laugh for 10 minutes. Oh, and now he's being mean to his players. Ha ha ha. It was kind of like I'm not wild about the Coach Simpson part of the special, which is funny that I named it I Am Coach and stuff, but I just wanted to do something to differentiate being a 48-year-old white guy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? When people are scrolling down, I felt like having the sweatsuit on and the hat on and stuff just at least pops off the screen a little
Got to
bit.
be something Adidas on you when you perform,
Yeah.
right? Is that the
Well,
rule?
I got my contract, man. I got my contract. They send me a new pair of shoes every month. Did I have that back when we met? Was I doing that back
No, are
when we
you
met?
being serious right now?
Yeah. No, they send me a new pair of shoes every month, and all I got to do to pick them up is go to my local Tanger outlet and pay full retail price for them. So it's a good deal that I have there. Wah wah. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. I'm still doing the hacky sound effects from a year of virtual comedy that changed my life and paid off my house. So
you could be like an old radio guy.
Yeah, I am. It's like
right. Come by. I'm going to be back behind the gas station giving out free Jello shots later on tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Come on by.
You should do that. Do you do that on stage? That's a great little radio voice.
I love it.
Morning radio with Danny Johnson. He's coming to the Jacksonville, Florida Comedy Zone, the greatest comedy night of your life.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that intro. It's the worst. Are you ready for the funniest night of your life? I'm like, lower your standards. Are you ready for a mildly humorous evening?
Yeah. That's what I always walk out and I'm like, funniest night of our lives. Let me know. Let me know at the end.
Yeah. So radio guys, newscasters, and strip club DJs, not that I know, I heard, have the same voice. It's all yeah, everybody, how's it going? Traffic on the I-95 northbound is a bleep. It's all the same.
Yeah, and then you meet them in real life and they're like, well, hey, Danny, how's it going? And they're talking, and you're like, oh, well, this makes sense now.
Yeah.
Like I got to hang out with Chris Fowler when South Carolina played Georgia back in 2013, when South Carolina was relevant. Clowney and all that group was here. I kind of stalked Fowler for a while on Twitter, and he invited me to come down there, and I got to sit in the bus with him for like an hour before the game and stuff and hang out, because he had done a little silly story on me when I was in high school, back when I played football in high school and stuff, and I wanted him to do a Where Are They Now? And let me tell some jokes to the Carolina fans. You know, I thought that'd be funny. And I think he just thought I was an insane person because I kept hitting him on Twitter. But he said, why don't you come on down? And he got me, and we were talking, and he spoke so eloquently, athletically, perfectly encouraging, the way he does with Herb Street on the Thursday night football or Saturday night football, like the UCLA adversity they faced here today has been magnanimous, or what, you know, like he just was like, so Marty, how has it been touring the country doing like in regular conversation? They were just so, I'm like, wow. So that's why he's doing what he does. Like, it's not difficult for him to come up with that stuff as it is for me and you right here, was blabble into Zoom.
I want to get into we both share an elite collegiate athletic career.
Okay.
Not same sport, but I think we should touch on that in a few minutes. But we both are,
I don't know, if
elite collegiate athletes.
Okay.
And
I'll
leave it at that for now. But
I don't know if I'm elite though, so you better carry the average.
We're both elite. I looked at some clips of yours. Because you played for University of South Carolina.
I did. I mean, I was a kicker, and a punter. So, but now I punted, and at that time in South Carolina, we had just gone into the SEC, so it was a good time to be a punter. You know, it's like I got a lot of snaps, a
lot of practice.
I did. I had the school record for number of punts in a game. 92 Alabama team that went undefeated. It is real. But Gene Stallings' Alabama 92 team that went 13-0, beat Gino Torretta when George Teague took the ball off the kid's back. It's it was the first game. It was the first SEC championship game. They beat Florida, and then they went on to beat Miami. In that game, we lost 48-7 in Birmingham, and I punted 16 times. It's a school record.
Wow. I
think 26 punts, and then I punted 10 times against Alabama on Thursday Night Football. And David Palmer had 9 fair catches and 1 9-yard return, the lowest punt return of his entire career. But I think 26 punts against two teams back to back like that is the most ever in South Carolina history. Also, like against the same opponent twice, 13 each. Too. It's also another. Those are my 2 school records.
That's great. There's a comic. I think his name is John Campanera. I don't know if you know who that is or not.
Sounds familiar.
He has a bit from like the 80s where he talks about, I don't know what, there's an absurd record for college football. Like someone won like 215-0 or whatever. Yeah.
Georgia Tech, I think, beat Navy or something. Yeah,
and
222-0.
Really funny bit about How would that coach give a halftime speech? Like you're down 111-0. What do you say?
Right.
Like, Timmy, you got to start snapping the ball backwards to the quarterback. It's not a front. It's not.
Right. That's funny. Yeah. I had a bit years ago that never really made it into the act because I could never quite make it funny enough. But it was one of my favorite things I've ever said was that I was at the Christian school and my kid at the state championship game, we were down first and goal at the 1 yard line with 10 seconds left in the half. We had one play to score and he shotgun snapped. We were about the 4 yard line. He shotgun snapped it over the quarterback's head, like 15 feet over his head. So we had to run out of midfield and we didn't score. And this little 10th grader, real spiritually advanced kid. And I mean, for lack of a better way to say it, kind of a nerdy kid.
Right.
And, he might've been homeschooled till 8th grade. I'm not generalizing, but pretty sure he was.
Right.
He said, Coach, we're out there on the field and we're just not being really Christ-like. Some of the guys are swearing when we make mistakes and that hasn't been happening all year. And I just don't think God's going to honor us to victory if we don't, be more Christ-like. And he asked me like, what do you, and he walked away and my dad leaned over to me and my dad was in my headsets. He's like a Bear Bryant type guy. And he was like, I think if we could get like a Christ-like snap to the quarterback in the second half, we could win. Why don't you tell him that? Why don't you pray about that? But I never could make it fit right because it seems a little blasphemous. I don't know, but
yeah, it's always touchy when you mention Christ in a set and context and how you say it and tone and everything. And
right.
It's funny. A buddy of mine has a dry bar special and he's in his normal act. He says, Jesus Christ, right? And he changed it specifically for dry bar to say cheese and rice, right? Instead.
Oh, wow.
But the stenographer that did the words at the bottom.
Oh, no, the caption still says Jesus Christ. That's amazing. Well, I had a bit for years where I bleep myself, and that's part of what's charming about it. I don't do it at clean shows like a corporate clean or church because,
right.
I mean, you're pretty much cussing, but I'm talking about my 4-year-old learning. Like it's actually the start of the bat tornado. That's like a 5-minute chunk that I concisely get all the way down so the kids can get the bats sent to their house. But the kids who taught my kids foul language, my little 4-year-old comes in and says, Savannah called me and effing stupid, except I would bleep it. I'm not going to bleep it now because this is Dry Bars podcast or whatever, we're being clean. But I always thought like, if that ever got on television, they're going to really bleep me. Yeah. And then corporations are going to think I'm saying the F word there,
right.
And so I know in a comedy club, I do it like 10 bleeps in a row. And I followed up with like, y'all like how I'm bleeping myself there, but don't go to work tomorrow and just start bleeping yourself because it takes a little bit of practice, like that kind of thing. Like you're going to get fired if you don't. But I just always pictured like finally getting on television and then they bleeped it. And I would be like, oh no.
You go, you talk a little bit about in your special about coaching, dealing with parents of those that you've coached. And I know from experience, I played baseball, a good chunk of my childhood and then coached my brother's team. My brother's much younger than I am. And the parents can be brutal.
Well, baseball parents, travel baseball parents, and soccer parents are the worst, like by far. Football parents and private school parents are bad. Private school parents in general, I feel like I was working from 95 to 2003 kind of. And in my mind, the private school was why the parents were crazy because they're paying all this money for this opportunity for their kid. But now it's just everyone. It was just 15 years later, the world has lost their minds. Everybody got a trophy for 20 years. And so they think their kid deserves to start. Yeah. And so it is, I wish I could go in a time machine, Danny, back to like 1999 and sit in those meetings again, though, knowing what I know now as a 50-year-old that's got a 22-year-old daughter that I'd had to sit through some terrible coaching and just cringe the whole way through. And because probably those parents were giving me some good advice and I didn't really listen to it, but they were also jerks sometimes. I mean, they're real jerks. And so, I think I'd still be coaching and teaching. I mean, I think I say in the Dry Bar, I have that one about the orphanage. I would coach at an orphanage.
Yeah. And that took them a second to kind of put that together.
It always does. And so I like that moment where I can lean down to the front row and that's because there's no parents to deal with that at orphanage,
Right.
ma'am. That's what we're talking about. And it lets everybody laugh. But that was the other thing that happened. I don't know, crowd work wise, what you did at your dry bar, but like I said, like in one of my bits, I say, like, how do you punish your kids?
Yeah.
And normally the shows are like, take their phone is right away.
Yeah.
And so, but this lady in Provo was like, beat them. And so I literally stood there on the mark and I said, all right, editors, I'm going to go spend some time talking to this lady over here. And I
Yeah.
want to give you a good shot to edit back to in case this doesn't go as well as it should.
Right.
Because we're going to fall in a well for a minute or two. And then I paused and then I walked over there and I dealt with the lady and they put all that in there, but they didn't put my little preface in there.
Right.
They literally, because I came back and I got the huge applause break. And then I came back and I sat still and was like, all right, let's go on with the show like that. And that got a huge laugh. And they cut all of the little nuance, like fourth wall part of it, which I was okay with because they left the good crowd work in there.
Yeah, because you say, I think we're going to park it over here for a little bit.
Yeah. I said, I think we're going to camp out. I think that's right. Yeah. We're going to park it. Same thing. I might say that too sometimes, but yeah, we're going to camp out over here. So now since that's one of those, you know how this works. Like you probably have 5 or 10 of these in your act too, where the crowd work now is just in every show from that point forward.
Right.
So now I call out, like, how do you punish your kids? And whatever they say that isn't take your phone, which would then get me into the bit.
Yeah.
I then say later, like every show they said, take your phone as the first answer until Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, when you guys said, throw them out back or what, like whatever they say becomes that little moment in the show. And then that show thinks I'm a magician.
Yeah.
When really it was just because one lady in Pro Bowl was like, beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's what I think is a funny story. I was watching this comic live at a show live, and he does a bit where he says something and then he pretends the audience says other stuff. They typically do yell out stuff, but if he doesn't say what he wants them to say, he'll say, who said that? Who said that? Right.
And it's an obvious to the audience that they didn't say that.
Right.
Or is it? Okay.
Yeah, well, but maybe not. But this time around, someone in the audience yelled, no one said that. Like corrected him. Like nobody said that.
Right.
Like, no, I think somebody did. He's like, no one said that. I was like, keep it going, man. Jeez.
Yeah. Who's the tattletale? Like this guy's like your kid isn't 6 years old.
Right.
Like he's the same guy that's like, when I talk about, I'm like, yeah, my kid is 20, but I just been telling this one a minute. Like,
Right.
I'm like, my 20-year-old line slowly is not charming at all.
Right.
Like,
I love the way all the callbacks to close the show out. It's fantastic to close the dry bar set out.
I appreciate it, man. That's like my dad said when I was growing up, I can't remember the comic. It might have been Cosby. It might have just been somebody on Evening at the Improv that had the callback. And my dad said, when a comic does that, I always feel appreciated because it's like he's saying, thank you for paying attention.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking when I was like 15, I was like, oh, if I'm going to do stand up one day, I'm going to have callbacks like that. Like, that's fun. That's cool. And so sometimes the joke is average at first, and you have to live with that for a while until you make that first joke good enough. Like I knew when I got my son lying slowly captured that, like, because the real story was he came back with like a story about how the free cookies at the life group event. It was like, 12 couples, 24 people, 30 kids, whatever. They had cookies for all the kids. So here comes this little 5-year-old rolling into the Bible study or whatever. And it's like, Dad, I didn't like the cookie they gave me. And I was like, okay, buddy, just bring me the cookie that you didn't like.
Right. And
then I'll take that cookie. And he was just like, he did the whole like lying slowly in front of 24 married people, because he obviously had eaten the entire cookie and wanted to tell me that he didn't like it to get another cookie or whatever. And so I told it on stage that way for about 6 months, just kicking it around, beating it to death, like one good laugh and a 2-minute rant about it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then finally, a friend of mine who doesn't do comedy full time, but he's a good writer, he was just like, I think the question needs to be binary. Like you just need to ask him something simple that he would say no to, that he should say yes to. And once we got it there, I knew I'm going to lie slowly. Once this joke is funny enough, I'm going to lie slowly at some point.
Yeah.
So I knew that was there. The other thing I do sometimes is I'll write a joke that just it's like long. So it's 3.5 minutes. And I'm like, well, if I tell the first 2 minutes at minute 20, and then just find a reason to get into the last minute later that's sort of related, then it feels like a magic trick to the audience when really it's just the same joke. I just inserted 30 minutes of the act in between.
My son's way of lying when he was younger was he would just ask me what happened. Even if he was just him at the kitchen table and like his spilled his milk or whatever. Funny. He's like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. You're the only one at the table.
That's great. I'm gonna start using that when my wife comes in and I'm like, it's 2 a.m. and I'm like still playing video games. And she's like, you said you were coming to bed like at midnight. What happened? I'll be like, what happened?
Yeah, what happened? I don't know.
What happened?
The weirdest thing.
That's great.
You've been married for a long time, man. I think you said you got married when you were 22, right?
Yeah, I did. So I'm 50 now, 50 this year. So 28 years coming up on 29 years. It doesn't feel like that. Like I remember when I was teaching and we would have dinner with other teachers that have been married 25 years. I'm like, they're so old.
Right.
You know? And now I guess.
That's how you met?
I do feel like, no, my wife is a teacher now, but she went back to get her master's when she was 39 to teach second grade. And so she's qualified to handle me now.
Right.
But I taught and she was like, psychology major, was looking at going back to get her counseling master's, but then got a job at an insurance place that made pretty good money and then had a kid, and then we had kids. So she didn't work for like 10 years of our marriage. And that's what I tell all the young comics. You're like, how do you go full time? What did you do to, how do you go full time in comedy? I'm like, well, the first step is have a job at a Christian school where you make very little money.
Right.
And then your wife will beg you to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't go out there and get successful.
Right.
Like you can't leave a good law firm job. You can't become partner at a law firm and be like, I think I'm going to try comedy. Because you're not going to be replacing $330,000 right away. But that little $17,000 stipend Ben Lippin was paying me to work there in 1996. I was like, comedy, man, I could probably do this. I can make that money.
I feel like your wife's career choices have been because she's married to you. Like first she wants to get into psychology to deal with you, right? And then she wants to get into insurance because she knows you're 50 and you're on your way out. She needs to insure you properly.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. She did insurance when we were younger though. Like she was just customer service. But yeah, then she went back to get her master's to teach second grade, like the child psychology, I think. Like I think you could be onto something there.
That's right.
So
I'm married to a man child.
Yeah. But in terms of Dry Bar, man, I don't see how they could do it any better. I mean,
they're launching what's the guy's name from Whose Line Is It Anyway? They're launching Dry Bar.
Yeah, Colin, what's his name? Colin Mockery.
Kaepernick. I'm just kidding. It's Colin something, but yeah, the whole improv channel they're launching. What happened?
Yeah, that whole improv thing, that looks good. And then their distribution channels are awesome. And my attitude was always like, the clip itself is so good that the bookings are going to mimic that. And so I understand some of the comics have like their own beef with Dry Bar or whatever. They don't get enough information or whatever. I've never felt that way because I knew immediately flying out there and doing the show and getting the clips.
Yeah.
It's not even the prestige because a lot of people haven't really heard of Dry Bar, even though there's 7 million followers. But the clip itself looks so good. You're not a $300 comic anymore. You know what I mean? I mean, I wasn't a $300 comic before, but I had to spend so much of my own money to get a good taping and all this stuff. And then
for sure,
it just isn't.
And they have 7 million just on Facebook, I believe, for 5 or 7.
Right.
And think about all the other platforms too.
Yeah. And shout out to Dry Bar just for what it's worth. I don't know what their decision process is on what clips they release, but I know that you can hover over the clip and be like, this one has 100,000 views and from this post and 974,000 views from 7 other posts. Have you ever seen that where if you hover over that?
No, I haven't.
If you're in Chrome, if you're on the phone, it doesn't do it. But, and I like the 8 or 10 specials that filmed the 3 weekends, like my weekend was the middle of, have all had their main clip released like 10, 15 times in like a year and a half or 2 years. And my Bat Tornado has been released twice. It's
Wow.
only gone out to people 2 times, and it has like 1 million views and whatever, 2,000 or 2% likes and what 7,000 shares and all that. And I just was like, can you not just put it in the rotation a little more often, and it
Yeah.
would help me? Like, shout out to me. But
You have to like wait for a some sort of like national bat like incident.
yeah, like the tornado or like hurricane material, if you had heard it for the past month or whatever. I
Right,
did an
right,
eclipse
right.
video a couple years ago. Oh, that we spent like two full days, like 60 hours out sleeping, doing this total eclipse of the heart parody that I don't know if you know Sean Reynolds, but he did a dry bar too. He'd be a good guest on the show. He's fantastic. He's one of my best friends. His daughter sang the lyrics and sent it back to us, and we had written it, and it was like poised, and I had it ready ahead of time. Like we finished it at like 5 a.m. The eclipse was that afternoon at like 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And I released it. And when I released it, I did this one thing I'd never done before on Facebook where I was like, I'll monetize it. I'll do that boost thing. This was like 2017 or whatever. So it was kind of new. And normally I'd been like $5 a day for 3 days or whatever, just dabbling in it. And I was like, I'm gonna spend $100 and get this thing seen.
Right.
It'll go out to like 50 million people on the day of the eclipse. It's gonna be amazing. And then because we monetized it, and I had licensed music from my distributor, like $9 a month, musicbed.com or whatever. But the way that works is it gets flagged at first, and then they have to get permission from my license agreement or whatever. So it was like the video went out and all of my friends saw it in their timeline immediately, and they couldn't share it. Nobody had a share button because the monetization part of it like flagged it as copyrighted material. So they were letting it get seen to my friends, just my friends, and nobody could share it. And then 2 days later, it could be shared. So I spent like $100 on like 13,000 views.
Wow.
So I shouldn't have monetized it. I should have just released it and let it go, or not monetized it, but I shouldn't have paid for the advertising.
Yeah. Boosted it or paid for the advertising.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mentioned earlier that we're both elite collegiate athletes.
Yeah.
And I'll share this with you. And I don't think I've ever shared this on a podcast before. I got a partial scholarship to junior college, State University.
I remember you telling me this.
Okay. State University of New York at Farmingdale for bowling. Now
I don't remember you telling me this. I was trying to make it baseball as you were saying it, just to be nice. I don't remember that at all.
Bowling.
That's amazing. Hold on 2 seconds. Right out here is my outside window. And there's a guy knocking on the door. Okay. I just don't want to answer. It's a salesperson. So if it was like my wife out there doing yard work needing to get in, I needed to.
A couple more minutes, honey.
So tell me, so bowling. So what does that look like? 230 a game? What is, I mean, what, like
yeah,
you should
so
go
my average was about
like,
the ironic thing about this is I was cutting class bowling at the bowling alley on campus, and then the team was a couple lanes down, and I had already been a really great
thunder.
bowler.
You're just like thunder over there. So they walked over. That's
Nothing
awesome
said,
though.
You could imagine my dating life being on the bowling team, and I still have like the varsity letter and the bowling shirt and the certificate of.
Did y'all have team shoes?
No, you had your own shoes.
They didn't have like cool like mascot shoes. Did y'all have like little chants and cheers for each other on a strike? Would you do like the towel waving like the North Carolina basketball team?
No, we just had a kind of like a specific kind of high five. You didn't want to like really,
Right. Yeah, no, I don't like that. When I'm bowling my like 130 trying to get 150, I'm like, don't touch me.
Right,
like,
right. But whenever someone says, have you ever played collegiate sports? I just say yes. Yeah, I'm a elite collegiate athlete.
Do you say that on stage?
I haven't. I don't know where the punchlines are yet.
I don't know, but like, I don't know. So where my mind went immediately was like talking crowd work to a man who's not attractive, except he could be attractive. You just make him unattractive and be like, you must have struck out a lot in college. Well, so did I. But I don't know. So if you could combine it, but I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things that you should just be saying to your audiences until the joke writes itself for you.
Yeah,
like,
that's a good. I'm gonna make.
You know what I mean? Like you could just be like, I was a college athlete, bowling scholarship.
Right.
At New York, where was it?
State University of New York at Farmingdale. That's the name of a city.
Even that's funny. Like that's funny right there.
Yeah.
Like the D1 powerhouse in bowling. Yeah. State University of New York at Farmingdale.
Feared.
What was your mascot?
I don't think we had one. I don't think.
Well, that's not the right answer.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of one. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to go. It's so many things to think about when writing that bit. But you're right. I should probably just say it on stage and see where they find it funny.
Yeah, and they'll heckle you and they'll say something that at some point after you get your self-esteem back for whatever they beat you down to, you'll be like, that's funny enough to say right there. But so like for real, when you bowl now, what are you expecting yourself to bowl? Like without any practice, if you and I just went this afternoon, like a 185?
No, lower, 150-ish. Because I don't have
but you have like the nice curve. You're just not going to have the precision.
I can't do the curve because I don't have my own bowling balls anymore. So the ones that I use, the ones at the lane, and they don't do anything. It's just a big plastic.
Well, right.
ball.
I've always thought that too. So they don't fit your hand correctly. So you can't, it hurts your wrist to do the actual thing.
Yeah. And it's just all big ball plastic anyway. So I'm 150-ish, but my average was
Golly, that was such like a bowling diva thing you just did there. Like you just like cast aside every bowling ball of the play. There's such like big ball plastic. And like it was amazing. Like that gives you credibility. That little reaction right there was so authentic. That gives you credibility. But here's the question: a bowling ball is what, like $200, $100?
I don't know anymore. It's been so long.
I'm saying this is the greatest thing you could ever do, to just show up to a bowling night and be a real bowler. Like everybody's going to bowl a 96 and they're going to want to pull the lanes out. And you're just like
I wheel in my own bowling balls. I got the glove on, powdered up.
Wear like the shirt that buttons. And then
I'll bedazzle the shirt for extra effect.
Yeah. Like Kingpin.
I do know that my bowling prowess has led to an elite career in slow pitch softball pitching.
That's not meaning that's not easy to strike people out or to throw strikes over and over again without walking people. So you play like a
that's why I'm
slow
the pitcher.
Pitch.
I'm the pitcher on the softball team.
So you know how to throw a nice high ball that's hard to hit, because if you throw the nice flat pitch, then they just whack it.
Inside, outside, slow pitch, fast pitch them.
And do y'all have like the little thing on the ground behind home plate that if it hits, it's a strike, or do you have an umpire?
Umpire.
So he's calling it balls and strikes.
Oh,
so when the big home run hitter gets up there, you throw him the first one like 19 feet up in the air, right?
Yeah,
just
he'll go, high, too high.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
I don't think it's
really. Oh yeah, I'm just trying to throw it as high as I can. So
I just go, you're high. I just repeat what he says. You're high.
I just always feel like they're trying to get it perpendicular with the ground. So when you swing at it, you only have one contact point.
And thank God, as a pitcher nowadays, there's a screen in front of me as a pitcher, because I guess there's so many
I didn't know that.
And somebody died
back when I played.
Heaven, this is awful, but someone get hit in the head to the line drive. You're just lobbing it in there, and some big brute is hitting it 90 miles an hour back, and
400-pound left-handed first baseman.
Throw the ball, and you just kind of duck behind the screen. That's it.
Oh, I know. I sat on the bucket for 7 years. My daughter was a left-handed power hitter in fast pitch softball, and my bucket was halfway there. So this is a 43 feet rubber to the home plate. So it's about where you are. I think it's about the same as slow pitch. And so my bucket would be 15 feet in front of that.
Yep.
And I could sit on the bucket. So if I just did a real pitch, I couldn't really do it. Right. You probably could, but I would just balk her and she wouldn't be able to hit, and I couldn't get ready for it. So I could sit on the bucket and just do like a boom, like I just hit my arm on one desk, but I could just do like a boom, boom, and it would go in fast enough. But I had to be so close to her. Like her junior year, I split my lip open. And so I got to where we would put the regular screen up, and I would just go just outside the screen. Yeah. Like, cause they have the one with the hole in it for the slow pitch down at the bottom.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get it in there. And so yeah, my daughter definitely tattooed me a few times.
Oof.
That was the whole t-shirt line that I did, Danny, was like for a while, but I couldn't get it in my clean shows. Like it was these pitches be crazy. And it was the softball girls, and we had pitch please with a comma in the middle, and then like a dad on a bucket sitting there holding it and be like, I can't get her to stop her pitching. And I went to like travel tournaments with all of them, and they sold to the 10 and 11-year-old girl teams. And then I got complaints from those parents about it. Like I ain't afraid to slap a pitch was one of them, because slappers, they run by and they're like these are real t-shirts that I try to sell. I sold them all. I did 100 t-shirts and sold them all in one summer and paid for my daughter's travel ball, but they got frowned upon by the travel ball community, I think.
I saw a great interview or a conversation between Chris Rock and Seinfeld. I saw a video of this, and they were talking about Chris was talking about how his daughter's riding the bench on the basketball team at school. And
Okay.
Rock was telling Seinfeld that his wife wants to go meet with the coach.
Oh no.
And Rock told Seinfeld, he's like, I told my wife, honey, there is a way for her to play. Alluding to the fact that the good kids,
she could be better.
They are playing. The good kids are playing, and he's like, there is a way for her to play, but she needs a little more practice. It was funny.
Yeah. Well, that's like what I would say. Not famously, but in my little community, I kind of famously offended the Booster Club president because he came in to talk about his kid, and that the whole story, like all of the kids that I taught know what my stage material is based on. They know which families it's based on.
Right.
You know what I mean? I get texts from my former students. They're like, hey, I just watched your dry bar. That's so-and-so, isn't it? You're talking about.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So it's just always like, yeah, your kid can play wide receiver when he can catch.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even like the other kid. But
you know Tom Simmons is?
Yeah, I've heard the name. I don't know if I've worked with him.
He's got a good bit about coaching his son's baseball team, and this kid comes to him saying he's the best hitter or best pitcher, whatever it is on the team. And he said, well, actually you're not, according to the stats that we show and share with the team, whatever. And his one of the parents of that kid got really mad and threatened him physically. He's like, I'll take a bat to you. And his response was, well, if your swing is anything like your son's, I don't have to worry about anything.
Right.
There's only a 0.167 chance you're going to hit me.
It's pretty great. Yeah. I think if we had recorded like the headphone stuff that we said for like the 9 years I did it, those would be podcast episodes right there.
Yeah. When I played Little League, there was a train that went by. We were right on the railroad tracks, all the fields. And as soon as the train went by, the whole game stopped because the kids just turned and watched the train go by. Same with soccer. You would just really see funny. All these kids stop and look, and then the ball would just shoot out from the pack, like go off out of bounds and stuff.
Like here's evidence that I know that we've lost our country. Like the country slowly, it's like it slowly went away from us over the years. Everybody gets a trophy with someone here, and now we just went and we're done. This TikTok video that I got sent, it's like a coach's pitch, and my kid played coach's pitch, and they went like 21-4. I wasn't the coach, but the key to coach's pitch is having a coach that can throw a dart that hits the bat. Like our pitcher could throw a strike in the same little 2-foot window. Yeah. And he just taught his kids to swing here. He taught the bad kids, don't swing at the ball, swing right through your belt.
Oh, okay.
And he would throw it on their belt. And with 5 pitches, he could get one in there. And the sound that you don't want to hear as the opponent coach is tink, because it would just go boom, boom, and go like 2 feet past the little chalk line.
Yeah.
And then the pitcher runs forward, the catcher runs forward, the first baseman runs forward, they hit each other. But so, I mean, what my point was, those 6 and 7-year-olds were being taught baseball at least, and they were trying to compete to win, and other teams were trying to compete to beat us. And it every now and then the right fielder's picking dandelions and stuff, like they say, Sebastian says, or whatever. But this TikTok video, this kid hits a ball that flops over the pitcher's head, and he runs forward. And like everybody converges on it. They kind of make sure, and then he runs around them, kind of between first base and the pitcher's thing, hits second base and runs out into left field, and then rounds third base. And you see the coach at third base just waving him in. And then he scores. And the first baseman's little reaction is like the future baseball player.
Yeah.
Like he's like screaming, and he runs over to first base, and the kid throws it over his head or something, doesn't get him out because he knows he could go tag first base and the kid be out. And when they throw it over his head after the kid's already at like third base, this kid like throws his glove up and just goes face down in the dirt like it's the worst day of his life. Right. And in my mind, I'm like, that's the kid that I can relate to right there.
Yeah.
But we're done. We're done as a country when this is what goes viral and everybody's like, this is so cute. This is what this is what T-ball and coach's pitch is all about. I'm like, no, it's not. Like if Bill Gates would have got a trophy when he was 9, when he struck out every single at bat, we wouldn't have Microsoft. Like, because his parents would be in the garage when he's building a computer at 9 being like, you're going to quit building the computer? And he's like cleaning it all. He goes, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this baseball thing. I got a trophy.
Yeah.
Like we need to eliminate the people.
I ran across a kid not too long ago who I quickly found out didn't understand the meaning of the word no. Never heard it like I was holding something. It was at a barbecue, whatever, a bunch of people, and this kid, innocent enough kid comes up to me and goes, "I want that in my hand." It was some sort of food item or whatever, and I said no, and they just kind of looked at me like like tilting their head back and forth, like, and I go, "No, it's mine," and they go, "No, but I want it," and I was like, "Oh boy!" I just walked away. It's like, thank goodness it's not my kid. It would have.
You need to lean into that kid and be like, okay, well, what I want you to do right now is make a huge scene, and I'm going to keep telling you no. I'm just
Right.
doing this for my own curiosity. And then you
Right.
lean back and you roll tape. Like, what parent is not teaching their kid the word no? Like,
Yeah,
ugh.
the worst. I got one. I have one. How many kids do you have? Two, three?
I have two, 23 this week and 20.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, my son just turned 16, so it's just him and I in the house. So
Yeah.
it's essentially like having like a man child living.
Yeah. So he eats like $700 a week of
Yeah.
worth of food,
And he's got this
and
like
cleans up
Thor-like
none of it.
hair. You and I are sporting the same hairdo, and he's got the big.
Yours is tighter, man. You get away with the shave in the sides. I can't get away with it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm just wearing it like you said in your act, $22.95.
Yeah.
So I can never wear one on
Lids.
stage. I think it takes. I don't know. People say it takes away from my facial expressions. I'm a big.
Well, here's what I did, Danny. I did 10 years of drama. I was a drama teacher, and I'm like, you can't block the light from your eyes. Everything's about your eye movement. Everything's about the face, this, that, and the other. And really what it boiled down to was I hadn't written 5 minutes of jokes about addressing the fact that I had a hat on. I didn't want to be like Bret Michaels, like the hat's attached, to the hair or whatever. I didn't want to be hiding it because I was very content. I don't care that I'm bald. I've been married 28 years. I went bald when I was 24. My wife knows that I'm bald. But here's the truth. This guy, 12 years of comic, good comic, solid comic, working road dog comic. This guy is a high price corporate comedian.
Yeah.
So it's like when I put the hat on, everything changed big time. Cause I just think when we have 2 minutes to make an impression on the lady at the office booking the event, and it's like guitar guy, fat comic, female comic. Oh, coach with the hat on,
Yeah.
And so I also started smiling a little more, got my teeth whitened.
Yeah.
And
so when you've done TV, you've done it with a hat, right?
Yeah. And so what I do is it's a real stressful operation. I don't think I wore the hat.
Did you do
Huckabee? By laughter though. I've done warm up at Huckabee so you get paid, but I haven't filmed a Huckabee. They've asked me to a couple times, and I just haven't decided that I want.
I just was curious if you wore the hat when you did Huckabee or any other.
I do. When I've warmed up twice, and I wore the hat, and I made a note because I can kind of tell where the lights are.
Yeah.
But I told Dry Bar ahead of time, and they had these two vertical stripes, like sort of over the audience that was there. So there was
that's great.
No issue at all. Yeah. And all I do is I look at the sound check guy and I'm like, all I need to know is, can you tell which direction my eyes are looking?
Yeah.
If you can, then I know there's enough light in my face. Cause I do a lot of that where I'm just like, here's the joke. And then.
Yeah. And the breathing out.
But it just got to the point where I don't care at all about the hat. But do you know Leslie Norris Townsend?
Yeah.
I didn't go this year. Did you go this year to the Queen County Challenge?
No.
I've gone every year except this past year. And Leslie Norris is fantastic. She's one of my biggest mentors, actually, of advice giving. And but she's, her act was big time on Evening at the Improv in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so some of the advice she gives, you have to filter through what would be, what would work in today's audience, this, that, and the other. But she's very fundamentally sound. And she told me, like, the first time, she's like, when you are mean and lean over the audience, you're scary.
Oh, wow.
And when you put that hat on, you're just so handsome. And she kind of has a funny voice like that. So, but and so she told me that like in 2012. And so it took me 65 years to get the hat on stage. Cause I just thought it was almost like holding a guitar. Yeah. Now, my good friend, Johnny W, is a fantastic guitar comic, but in general, if I see a guy holding a guitar, I have doubt going in, like there's a Dry Bar girl that's hilarious. That does a guitar. All her clips are little songs and stuff. I can't remember her name. Oh, but she's fantastic. And like Stephen Lynch is fantastic comic, but so I just didn't want to have that hat on and and it'd just be like a hacky little thing I was doing. But it's gotten to the point. I just did a big gala. Actually, it was down in Hollywood, Florida, not near you, but kind of in Florida, I guess. But I had a tuxedo and a hat. Like I wore a black hat that matched my tuxedo.
It's great.
And yeah. And so I wore like nice Adidas tennis shoes, tux, and I hosted the whole gala like it was the Oscars. It was 400 dentists giving each other awards and stuff. And I had to come out and do the
Is that how you got the
roasting of them,
whitening?
like-
Is that how you got the teeth whitening?
No, I did that like 5 or 6 years ago. But oddly enough, what they do is pull teeth, and for meth addicts and truckers. They're like all 400 of them are in a chain, and it was really cool. It was a really cool gig. It was one of my favorite.
And what they
gigs
give
ever,
them like the
actually.
fake, whatever, they repair their teeth, I assume.
They screw them down. Yeah, they give them the bridge and screw it down.
Implants,
They only do dentures and implants. Yeah. So these people come in with like 2 teeth facing this way, and they bring their stimulus check in and put it on the desk, and they leave 2 hours later with like a full
Wow.
mouth
Good
of
for
teeth.
them.
I mean, they really are doing awesome work down there. And but yeah, I was talking to my wife. I'm like, do I go down there and just be normal and just wear my tux or whatever? And my wife was like, just wear the hat. Like they
Yeah.
hired you,
Yeah.
you know. But I do feel obligated to tell the hat jokes. Like
Yes.
if I don't want to just come out in a hat and a tux and then leave in a hat and a tux, and then I'm just like, I'm the guy that didn't take my hat off indoors. So
Yeah,
I
it's
have
smart.
I have to tell the 1 or 2 minutes. I have to at least get 1 or 2 of the jokes out.
I like how you said
It
that
is.
you wore your good dress Adidas sneakers with your tux or so, however you referred to them. I brought out my nice Adidas.
Oh yeah.
With the
Well, that
tux.
used to be my opener. I haven't done it in forever because it just got where it felt hacky. But like I come on stage and I have my regular Adidas, Sue Silverman, whatever from Glee top on. And then I say to the audience, like I'm disheveled. I'm like, guys, I'm sorry that they just introduced me. I came running. I came straight in from the airport. I'm sorry I didn't have time to put my show clothes on. I'm sorry. I know it seems disrespectful to show up to your event. I know y'all been waiting weeks to have this event. I just got here. So let me take a second and put my show clothes on. And then I just changed tops to a different color one.
Right.
So it's like the turquoise one instead of the black one.
Right.
And it's like a whole show. I like take this off. I'm like, I got my show clothes here in this bag, and I pull out the bag and I
Right.
put on a different sweatsuit. And then I'm like, okay, now this is the show clothes, And, but yeah, so it is. But I do have show Adidas, and I have my walk around Adidas that are dirty.
I have the
That
same
was another
thing with-
mentor.
I'm a Nike guy though. I'm a Nike guy.
Yeah, no, that's respectable. I mean, child labor issues and stuff, but I mean, mine guy's German, so what are you gonna do? But couldn't even stay in business with his own brother. Puma and Adidas are brothers,
Are they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had a family feud and split the company. Adidas split to become Puma. So
How
they're
did you
two
just
different
say
brothers.
that? Adidas?
Adidas. That's like the highfalutin way that the Europeans say it, I think. But
Every time I talk to you, you
Adidas.
get fancier and fancier. I don't know if we're gonna.
yeah. Well, and that was another mentor I think told me. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Horace Sanders. Horace HB Sanders. He's a good guest on this. I don't think he's had a dry bar, but he should. Maybe he did film it. He was like
No.
my first mentor in the whole thing. He won Star. He's actually the reigning Star Search champion. He won Arsenio Hall's Star Search in 2003, and that's the last time they ever did the show. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
how we introduce him. Whenever I'm introducing him, I'm like, he's the reigning Star Search champion.
That's funny.
It's
Yeah.
19 years ago. But he said, no matter how you dress, it's always good to be one step above the audience.
Mm,
So like if they're in t-shirts, you should be in a designer t-shirt. If they're in suits, you should be in a nicer suit. If they're a black tie, you should have a better tux than they have on. So that's but that's not 100% true. Like Larry the Cable Guy would be,
right. The
Obvious
character
difference
fits
to that.
the outfit, right?
yeah. And that's where I don't want to be a character, but I think that I think I walk around at the airport as a character. I think my real life, I'm a little bit of a character. You know what I mean? Like I think Coach Simpson is so authentic. I don't know any other way to be. And so sometimes
So
I
if
say
you
that
ever
on
do a
stage, I'm
nudist
like,
colony, you just have to wear a towel.
but it would be Adidas.
Right. Adidas.
Yeah, I could get
Adidas.
Adidas. All day I dream about sex, right?
I'm
Is that
gonna-
what you heard when you were a kid?
Yeah.
ADIDAS, all day I dream about sports, I think is what it was.
Right.
But,
Right.
But we were middle school, like, it's all day I dream about sex.
Yeah, that's hilarious. We're both. I just turned 49, so I'm right in your
Nice.
ballpark there.
Yeah, I'm 50, man. It's like everything changes, man. It's like I'll spend most of my day planning where my kids are going to get to pay for college in my 30s. And like in my
Right.
20s, I was planning where I'm going to go out on Thursday night, where we're going to go Thursday night.
Right.
In my 50s, I'm just mostly spending half my morning, like the whole morning leading up to this podcast. I was like, looking for a place in my house to sit down and put on my socks.
Right.
I can't like stand up and put my socks on. I can't sit on the bed and put my socks on because the angle is not right. I can't lean far enough down. It's awful.
I feel like I'm planning my days around when the next time we're eating.
Yeah.
It's just activity. What time is dinner? What are we doing? Did
your life change much during COVID? I've talked to other comedians and I don't know.
Other than not traveling to do gigs, right? So
right, but meaning like your day to day, like the non-gig day was nothing. I was like, I've prepared 17 years of my life for this moment. Like this is everybody's going nuts and going crazy. I'm like, you're living my life.
The OCD introvert is I've been social distancing for the longest time.
I would have voted for masks on a plane 20 years ago because I don't like mucus.
Right.
Like I don't like being sneezed on.
Right.
And for what it's worth, I did 35 flights with mandatory masks, 0 COVIDs. And just this year I did 6 flights without masks mandatory and 1 COVID.
Okay.
So I caught COVID a month ago for the first time in 2.5 years. I was a late bloomer.
Yeah.
And my wife got it twice. My son and daughter both have had it. And I never got it. But I got it without, being on a plane without masks. And I joke with it because I don't know where the masks are. I don't care. I don't care about the politics of it. But I don't like when somebody's next to me coughing. And I think the mask policy should be like hockey. I think that the first time you fight in hockey, you get 5 minutes in the penalty box. Like the first time you're coughing incessantly on the plane, the stewardess should give you 5 minutes in the penalty mask.
Yeah.
And they bring the big fat, like the Darth Vader mask to you and they put it on you. And then the second time, just like in hockey, you get 10 minutes in that penalty mask. And then that third time, that lady's like coughing up a lung over there. You like walk over, you're like, I'm sorry, ma'am, but you're ejected.
Yeah. It's also caused like, for me, I feel like it's making me cough sometimes. Like I'm like, don't cough. And then all of a sudden a tickle develops in my throat and I'm like, I bring it on myself and I'm like, nothing's wrong with me.
I just had a chocolate chip go there.
Right.
And do you do this on the plane? I do this on the plane. I'm like, like I lead by example. So the guy next to me sees me doing it. So hey, honey, you want to lean in and be on the podcast? My wife just walked in.
Hello.
This is Danny Johnson's podcast. Here comes my wife. Lean in farther. There she is.
Hey, how are you?
Just bringing in the mail. I'm the mail lady.
All right. Yes. Envelopes full of cash.
Yes. Oh, it is. This is money. Good job.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure is mine. See, look at that. I was going to joke too about her. You got COVID once, she got COVID twice. She's always got to do things better than you, more than you.
She's always one up on me.
Right.
She got it in this cool ministry. Like she went to Atlanta with 10 other women. It's a true story. It's called Frontline Ministry, where they ministered. They brought candy and cookies and happy grams and love messages to these prostitutes and strippers in downtown Atlanta.
Okay.
Quite literally, my wife was sitting backstage at a strip club, like holding babies and loving on these women and just like hanging out with them, doing whatever they needed.
Right.
And praying for them, doing whatever. And she came back and got COVID like 3 days later. Like 7 of the 10 women got COVID. And I was like, honey, I hope you can't get really sick. You have to recover quickly from this. And she was like, why? And I'm like, because I need to be able to tell people you got the COVID-19.
All right. Well, look,
that's true. That's a true story, though. I don't tell that on stage, really, but it's just a funny thing to have said to your wife. Yeah,
I like that. I was waiting for the pun for the dentist pulling teeth. Was how many times you got to use that phrase walking around that conference? It's like pulling teeth, getting a bottle of water around here before the show.
Oh, that's funny. I should have. That's good because they probably want me to come back next year. I need to write some of this stuff down.
All right.
Yeah.
But look, so you're I Am Coach, Dry Bar Comedy Specials available everywhere. Check it out. MartySimpson.com. Tons of clips. You're all over the place. And anything else you want to share with my massive listening audience?
I do bar mitzvahs and quinceañeras, and I'm kind of going after that quinceañera market.
What is that, 15?
Yeah, I think it's 15, like the Spanish bar mitzvah, except not bar mitzvah, it's Catholic or something. Yeah. Like I've never actually done one. I just
bar mitzvah is Jewish.
Right. Yeah. So it's like the Spanish bar mitzvah. It's like a passing of the torch to the adult boy or the girl or whatever is quinceañera. It's like Yeah. I don't know.
children's
So
parties.
there's a Comedy Zone in Jacksonville back open? Has it been
Oh
back
yeah,
open?
it's been open a long time now, and what a great room. You've done it.
So they just haven't asked me to come back. And I thought they hadn't been open in a while. I checked on it like a year ago, 6-8 months ago. I wanted to go down there. I had a gig near there and I checked on it. They weren't, their website made it like they weren't open or not. I didn't know if they opened.
Yeah, they
back up
changed
full or
the
not.
Fred, the owner's no longer Fred Posen. He sold it.
Okay.
So he's retired, and it's some conglomerate, some big corporation bought it, but they're running it pretty well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was always a step up. It was the first one. Was it the first Comedy Zone or second one?
Charlotte,
Like it was.
it might have been the first or second. It was Charlotte was either first, I believe.
Yeah, like I know that room just has an A quality
Oh yeah.
room. It's like one of the only, like Greensboro and that one are kind of, and Charlotte are like the main ones, and every other Comedy Zone gig is kind of like, yeah, I'll go do that.
Johnson City, Tennessee, inside of a.
Yeah, Columbus, Georgia. That's a good little gig, Columbus, Georgia, the Fort
The
Walton
Loft.
Beach. Yeah. Is that no, the Loft is Columbus, right? But what is the Fort Walton place? It's the honky tonk bar.
Oh, the Block.
The Block. So this is a true story too. I was down there and I got my buddy, he's a headliner too, just to go with me. So we'd have the trip together, whatever, just road dogging it. And they asked us, they were like, you need to come back in March because that's when we have the midget wrestling.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not. Did we say little people wrestling? I don't know.
Right.
But he said, no, these little people slap your face if you call them little people. Like, and they like wear the whole outfit and they're all like, there's a Ric Flair character. There's a Stone Cold Steve Austin. They're like little miniature wrestlers and they do it live and it's not fake. They're just crawling up on the chair. And I was like, that's like a bucket list item now. I need to be the MC, host, comedian of the little people wrestling event at the Block. And
you do have that
Fort
referee
Walton.
vibe, so you could be a ref in the.
That's funny. Yeah. That's good to hang out, Danny, man. I hope we run into each other on the road. Like you never get to, you always perform alone, like you were saying at the beginning. And, it's like you don't get to hang out and stuff. So it's good to see you.
But yeah, absolutely. And check out MartySimpson.com. I am Coach Dry Bar Comedy Special. And as always, thanks for listening to Behind the Bar. Marty, hang out here for a second, would you?
I will.
All right. Until next time. Thanks, folks.